And God said, "Let us make mankind in our likeness and image." What a generous thing to say and to do. Elohim was planning to make a creature in the physical realm that would be like a mirror image of God in the spiritual realm. God was going to make a man who would rule like a God on earth, just as God ruled in heaven. This human being would enjoy the attributes of God. This human being would be someone who could relate to God spiritually and emotionally. This human would have a will like God, and the ability, right, and responsibility to rule over himself and make his own choices. God could have made man into some sort of toy or plaything. God could have molded an action figure or a Barbie doll designed to play out his desired storyline, deciding for himself all scenarios, actions, and outcomes. But God didn't. God could have made man a robot to simply hear and obey God's every command, but God didn't. God could have made man to be a pretty curiosity to sit on a shelf and adorn the earth, but God didn't. God could have made man a stallion that he could ride everywhere he wanted to go, but God didn't. God could have made man a workhorse to slave for him all day and churn out product, but God didn't. God could have made man an ox to thresh out earth's grains, walking for hours in circles at the same old grind, but God didn't. God could have made man a lion to strut around the earth and rule and conquer all the other animals, regal and majestic, but far inferior to God. But God didn't. God wanted a family. What happens when a baby is born and all the relatives and friends of the parents are so excited to see the baby for the first time? Everyone always gathers around the newcomer, asking the same question: what does this little one look like? That is always the big, imminent question. Of course, the baby looks like a baby, seldom having any prominent features of the parents at this point, but everyone crinkles their foreheads and looks hard, searching for identifying features. "He has his father's nose," the grandfather pronounces decisively. "Yes, but he definitely has his mother's chin," the grandmother declares with an air of superiority. My, he is the spitting image of his big brother. "He looks exactly like Charlie did as a baby," the aunt nods with knowing wonder. Can you imagine the angels gathering around, watching Elohim create the earth and all the animals? And then imagine how the angels dropped their jaws in celestial shock when God reached down his fingers into the soil and created a being, a human being that looked like he looks just like God. Nothing and no one else looked like God. This was not just a new creation. This was an entirely new concept. What an amazing surprise. The dirt wasn't the big shocker. The shocker was that the dirt was actually a container, an earth-made natural vessel that held the very breath of God. I can only imagine the startled whispers that swarmed, rising slowly into an excited bumblebee buzz. "Look, Adam has 3 parts to his being, just like Elohim. Adam has emotions, just like Elohim. He can laugh and smile and love, just like Elohim. Adam has creative abilities, just like Elohim. He can imagine and envision and speak into the earth, and it comes to pass, just like Elohim. Wow. Adam was created to rule, just like Elohim. Adam is majestic, just like Elohim. And then a huge hush. Rubbernecks, back and forth, between God and man and God. The realization was sinking in slowly, level by astonished level. And then Michael looked at Gabriel, and Gabriel looked at Michael. Slowly they turned to Elohim with one last question. God nodded, and the two angels nodded back, and slowly bowed to their knees before mankind. Row after row after row of celestial beings followed suit until all of heaven bowed before Adam, even as the earth and its inhabitants had. Adam stood, still startled from recent awakening, but fully comfortable. He looked at God, and God gazed back at him and smiled. Adam grinned and bowed his head in deference and homage to his Father God. He understood who God was, and he sensed who he was, a son created in his Father's image. And all was as it should be. And the celebration began. Such joy, such congratulations, and even a few high fives thrown in. It was the celebration of creation. But lest Adam be overwhelmed with so much to absorb at one time, God pulled the curtain and covered Adam in a cloak of comfortable privacy. Now all Adam could perceive was God and himself and his wonderful new home. God began the tour, introducing Adam to the mountains and oceans, hills and valleys, trees and flowers, rocks and rills. Then the animals began their procession. Slowly, majestically, they approached, 2 by 2, bowing to their Maker and his right-hand ruler. Each duo remained prostrate as Adam circled around them, poking and prodding, smiling and laughing and chattering away with his father. Finally, with a hug and a regal knighting, Adam named the pair, and so they became even more of what he recognized and spoke. The two animals then nodded, stood in renewed dignity, and moved on in procession. At the end of the parade, Adam squinted his eyes at the horizon. He turned to his father. They are all twos. Yes, they are twos. But I am one. Do you want to be two? Yes, I do not think I want to be alone. You're right. It is not good for you to be alone. Relax and rest, and I will see what I can do. Behind the two-way mirror, the angels watched intently. And the Creator of heaven and earth took his own likeness and separated out some of his characteristics and deposited them into another. Adam awoke. He was still rubbing his eyes when he saw her. Suddenly he jumped to the sky and began running and rejoicing and whooping up his own party. He speeded toward her and swept her up into his arms and spun around and around, embracing her with joyful hugs and cheers and intimate kisses. Elohim smiled and opened his arms and gathered his family in close. The elephants trumpeted, the birds sang, and the doggies ran around and around the family, barking their wagging tail excitement. But the angels were hushed in thunderous, awestruck silence. The rubbernecking was reversed. The celestial beings looked from Adam to Eve to Elohim and back again. With the division, the characteristics of Elohim were singled out in greater contrast and detail than these heavenly beings had ever seen or even imagined. Elohim was still all that they knew, but so much more than they had imagined. The comparison of like yet unlike characteristics set the new discoveries in stark relief. The magnitude of the unveiling was more than mind-boggling. Paradigms tilted as comprehension overloaded. It would take thousands of years to fully discover, understand, and fathom the fullness of meaning uncovered in one anesthetic snooze. For the moment, all of heaven could only hold its breath in wonderment. Meanwhile, in the back corner, huddling in the shadows, one being drew his dropped jaw back up into a tense grimace. The realization of this drama's meaning meant more than the exaltation of his enemy. It meant the end of his myopic delusions of grandeur and the demise of his personal ambitions. And he wasn't happy. His scowl darkened as his essence turned blacker. From this deepened pit of discovery budded a new thorn of hate. He would take these young innocents down, or perish trying.